All right, so I want to introduce you to Eddie Millwood, who's the Director of Digital Convergence from Hall County Schools, and Penny Christensen, who's the e-learning specialist from Hall County Schools. Welcome to this forum to discuss what's happening in digital transition. I want to make sure I can hear both of you.
Hi, Leilani.
Hello.
Hi. Hi. Okay, good. I can hear both of you. Do either one of you want to share screens by chance?
I'd love to.
Okay, good. So Penny, I'm going to make you presenter. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. You are now the presenter.
Awesome.
Very good. Well, while Penny, there we go. First of all, let me start out by saying we're very honored to be a part of this this series over the last couple of days. I know I'm sure I speak for Penny in that we have certainly learned a lot, and it's great to participate. We are in Hall County. Let me tell you a little bit about our district. We're about 40 miles north of Atlanta, neighboring Gwinnett County, so we are certainly a growing district. Lake Lanier is a big part of our district, so a lot of people can place us through that. Definitely smaller than many of you on the call today. We have about 27,000 students. We're at 34 schools, so we're definitely a nice size, but growing. Penny and I work with in an area, we are both in the teaching and learning department, but it's a little unique in that we're actually located in our teaching or in our technology facility, which for us works really, really well because we serve as on a team that is a liaison between teaching and learning and technology, and it really allows us to work against silos being created in those two areas because they certainly go hand in hand, and we've never seen that more than we're seeing in the world that we're living in today. We're both part of a great team. We've got Penny's one of 3 e-learning specialists, and then we have a group of content specialists here, and so it's really great to be a part of this team and see the work that they're doing to get ready for what we're experiencing now and then planning for the future. So today our goal is to share our journey with you. Like all of you, we are currently teaching in multiple modalities, but we are going to focus on virtual, and we certainly don't have it all figured out, and we've learned a lot from the last couple of days, but we continue to learn from what we've done and make plans going forward. So today what our goal is to talk to you a little bit about how we started this process, what we've learned, how we prepared and opened school. And then Penny's presentation is quite honestly going to be the heart of what we're going to talk about today, which is how supporting teachers that are virtual teachers in our district. And then we'll wrap it up by talking about next steps for us in regards to virtual. So Penny, if you don't mind, we'll go ahead and proceed. And really what we're going to talk about today is what we have in essence done and are doing right now is we've basically built a virtual school in each building, and we'll talk a little about that as we go. So. All right, so let's start out. We'll talk about how we started, and like it's been referenced many, many times, we all lived through the mid-March, March 13th for us when instruction changed. I felt like we were in a pretty good spot for this. No one can be fully ready, I don't think, for what we all experienced in March, but for us, I felt like through the work of the team that I referenced earlier, a lot of our prior efforts certainly facilitated this shift. We have been working for several years to build district content, digital content to give to our teachers. Much of that is student-facing, which certainly helped as we moved to full remote learning in the spring. As this happened mid-March, our priority quickly became teacher support. We were all in on that. That was 100% of what we were working on. From product support, what I mean by that is how how we're going to help teachers with the different products that we have out there to support learning. We had PL sessions for teachers throughout the spring, both synchronous and asynchronous. These included live Zoom sessions for Q&A as well as specific topics. As far as instruction goes, in the spring, we were primarily synchronous. Now, there was a lot of asynchronous pieces to it, but we were primarily synchronous. And as everyone else pretty much has done, we definitely leverage Zoom and have continued to work with Zoom as we now have a district license. And then our district content, as I referenced earlier, certainly supplemented the teacher-created content in the spring. So that, and real quickly, is what our spring looked like. We also used this time as we got later in the year to begin gathering feedback and data, because we honestly didn't know April or May, and I don't know if anybody truly knew what the upcoming fall was going to look like. So we began gathering data and feedback to start planning. So this is how we started. And then as we gathered this feedback and we gathered this data, we started really shifting into, okay, what did we learn? And this is an area that we may have been a little bit different than some districts. We were pretty deliberate because the status of the pandemic informed our decisions. And so we were fairly, like I say, deliberate on that. This impacted the survey timing. When I say survey, that was the survey that went out to parents, letting us know what their preference would be for the fall of 2020. And we also had a large team that worked on what were our in-person protocols going to be, because while instruction looks different this year, school just looks different this year, even in face-to-face. And so we put a lot of work into that. But one of the things that we quickly realized as we talked to principals and teachers was that what we did in the spring was not sustainable going into the fall on a bigger scale. What I mean by that, we had teachers did amazing things, but it was not sustainable in that once we came back to some face-to-face and then virtual or remote, it was just really something we had to have a more delineated model, I guess, with the different types of teaching on that. Another thing we learned was that it was very critical that we had to really utilize one LMS, and in Hall County we utilized Canvas, and so this was something that most of our schools had pretty robust activity in Canvas, but some that did not. Spring was a little more difficult for them, so there was a definite urgency that the last school year ended with for some schools, to where we really got to build that use of Canvas and that knowledge. So that was one of our I guess takeaways. And then another one was we were faced with a decision for what do we do with virtual in 2021, and this is where this was the real unknown for everyone. I was in several groups that talked throughout the summer, and everyone was really, no one really knew the best way to do, I think, virtual sometimes, because they'd not done it at this level. What we chose to do is we chose to purchase virtual content. We chose to, if students chose to be virtual, we made a full break from that process in that it is totally asynchronous. In our case, we purchased content from Florida Virtual. We had some experience working with Florida Virtual. We had a small virtual program for years in our district, primarily with Spanish, with health and PE, with Chinese, and we've utilized their content. So we had some background with that, and we felt comfortable with what they offered. And we also felt like for us, this would offer an option to possibly expand in the future, depending on what our vision for virtual is in our district. And one thing that we also talked through is we really felt like we needed to make sure our terminology was correct. So for us, when we talk virtual in Hall County, it's students that are full virtual, and it's very asynchronous versus remote, where those are students that are face-to-face but may be working remotely, for example, with a quarantine situation or things like that. Okay, Penny. And that led us to really preparing for 2021. We sent out surveys on July 7th to parents, along with some information, just giving them as much information as we could at the time of what instruction would look like. And we gave quite a liberal deadline of August 31st, and whatever we're asking parents to commit for the first semester. And then we began planning for the opening of school. And as I heard our Cobb County just mentioned, we did something similar to them. We did 3 weeks of pre-planning. Our superintendent board approved that because they understood and that we really needed some extra prep time, and certainly was appreciated. During that time, many things went on. We were in the process of getting our virtual courses ready, onboarding teachers, working with our content within Canvas for in-person and remote, and at the same time learning new in-building procedures for those students that chose to be in person. And so if you go to the next slide, Penny, we'll continue that conversation. That's led to the opening of school. And so if you will, I'll remind you on the previous slide, parents had until August 31st to decide. So if you look at the current slide, you'll see that we actually allowed students to begin school and have a week to really decide if they were fully confident with virtual or in person. So for the first couple weeks of school, August 24th through September 4th, we opened up with alternating days, meaning that A through K, students' last names A through K, went on Mondays and Wednesdays. Students M through Z went on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And Fridays, all students went. What this did would allow schools to practice and tweak procedures and processes. And then on August 31st, parents chose their final choices for virtual or in person. Now, probably know what a lot of you are thinking, and we lived it, is this created almost a round 2 of adjusting, because as these choices were made, we realized that we had to add courses. We had to add some or not add teachers as in new teachers, but we had to shift some teachers within the buildings. And so it was definitely hectic. And it was a heavy lift, but it went well. A lot of folks put in countless hours to get this done, but we felt like it gave our parents the most informed choice to start the year. And just some numbers, first semester, which we're still in, we're about 21% full virtual and 79% full in person. We have just recently compiled surveys for second semester, and as of right now, our numbers are going to shift to where second semester 13% are full virtual and 87% are full in person. And it's interesting, we have a significant number that have chosen to go from in person to virtual as well. So it certainly hasn't been all back from virtual to in person. So it's been interesting to see that. Okay, Penny. And
Thanks,
so
Eddie.
Penny, so Penny, I'm going to turn it over to you. This is going to be the part that Penny's done a phenomenal job in. So Penny, take it away.
And as you can imagine, teachers in our district were very concerned. We had really overtly said we're really going to honor what the family wants. We're going to try and meet the needs that they have, and they expressed to us in these surveys as a result of what they experienced in the spring. And a lot of what we remind teachers of when they sometimes say, this isn't awesome, is, we're meeting their needs. We're going to all have to get through some things together. And the 2 ways that we chose to connect with these teachers was through a virtual course, a Canvas course, and through Teams. And I've heard a lot of my colleagues talk about Teams. It was a wonderful mechanism through this first semester and into the second. 2 of our learning products that we use that we think might be a little bit unique, of course, we have an LMS. An LMS functions pretty much the same way, but we chose to bring into our LMS some purchased content. And when we looked around for K-12 content, we really liked the quality level of Florida Virtual, and we liked the fact that a mom who is sitting in a dining room somewhere, unlike in the spring where she had to guess where you find the notes for the video for the test, whether she had a 5th, an 8th, or a 10th grader, she could kind of follow some of the same conventions. And that's why we applied a K-12 curriculum in our existing LMS. We have a lot of experience in Canvas, and we helped bring people together around these non-negotiables. What we had to do while Eddie's team was helping prepare people in those first pre-planning weeks is we had to take the EdGate correlations, make sure our Georgia standards were covered within these Florida virtual courses, and we had to work with contracted content specialists to supplement the content. The master courses for these things were at the district level so that we could utilize Florida Virtual's LTI capabilities within Canvas. And because we did not have Canvas connected to our SIS, my team manually created 1,500 associated courses for the blueprints that we would push out at the end of pre-planning. As far as our LMS, while we've had this LMS since 14, really our bookends were the people that had the most learning curve, the people who relied deeply on pedagogy or deeply knew their content. We also had to convert some of our younger grades to a module-based delivery system. While they were used to pagination, we tried to direct all learners to the modules page, which was a little bit of a shift for our younger folks. Of course, we were able to mirror the terms in the LMS for the SIS for grading. And the nice feature about Blueprint and Canvas is where you can update as needed. We think that these two went together very well, and we're very happy with how we were able to deliver huge swaths of content quickly. For the supports for these things, we really came across a couple of things that we didn't expect and some things that we knew we'd have. For instance, in the Florida Virtual K-12 content, we understood that there would be paper products that people could print out at home, maybe send from school, but I think we underestimated the amount of those in the K-2 areas especially. It's possible our parents also might not have known anyone who's done a homeschool program where they know how worksheet laden something that's virtual can be. I think that was a surprise to us. There are a lot of rich text files or PDFs within the Florida Virtual. And so the student submissions were hard. And what I'd say about that is we have a super responsive district. And in September, we went ahead and made the purchase of Kami. Kami was going to be friendly K-12. It's really important for K-2 to have that same access as any of our other learners. And so we were able to have that PDF annotation and submission handled rather quickly. Zoom was a real asset to us in the spring, and some teachers also relied on that. Even though they had the Florida virtual content, they would choose, instead of giving a lesson synchronously, to set a future date and we could do, or pardon me, instead of giving it asynchronously, they chose to do it via Zoom synchronously. And so our district, when the free Zoom went away, we went ahead and purchased in July a district-wide license for Zoom also. So virtual, face-to-face, blended, everyone has an access to that. Also, by October, we were listening to schools and we realized that we really needed to get some after-hours support, not for teachers, but to take off the teachers what the students and parents were asking them to do. Teachers don't have to know how to connect to your Wi-Fi if you can call in to our virtual student help desk, and we can do that for you. Also, we found it a little bit humorous that the state drop for people who were not immunized happened to virtual students too. Everyone kind of looked around and thought, well, we'll have to catch up with that. So when we had SIS issues like that, people were able to call a help desk. When they needed help with connecting to Wi-Fi or a printer, our student help desk was there for them also. At the end of pre-planning, teachers were itching to see what their course actually looked like. And so my most attended synchronous support sessions were what we called a course walk. We tried to break it up by content, by grade level. And while I was working my way up to showing them their content and maybe telling them what is unique for high school science or what specifically do we have to offer in 5th grade math, I would also talk about the non-negotiables of how, as a district, thinking about that parent with a 5th and 8th and a 10th grader, we were going to have course navigation set up, how we were going to handle chunking and pacing. And throughout the entire semester, we've talked about how do you wrap your teaching around the content and the platform. How do you bring that human element, the part that is the magic from the classroom, into what you're doing? And while that's a challenge, we think there were a lot of communication opportunities using what exists already within Canvas. And of course, Zoom is an excellent asset for that for most of our folks. Our non-negotiables also included the module view. That was super helpful across grade levels for families, we heard back. We did ask our teachers not to delete any content, simply unpublish what they didn't want to. When you think about going into your classroom and closing the door, this is such a transparent shift that we found a lot of people had some very candid questions about this. And they were, of course, the questions you'd have, I'd have, and any of our colleagues would have had. But I'll say that this is especially where Teams was helpful on the one-to-one basis. So maybe people who weren't posting in a general thread or in a content or a grade level thread, they really opened up when they sent you a message and they said, let me get this straight. If I don't want to teach it that way, if I don't want to use those words or this graphic, you're saying I can unpublish it, and what are my options, and who's going to look at that, and what does that mean? And I think that when you have everything uncertain, to be very certain of one thing is super valuable. So I'd say that was probably when I started to realize that Teams wasn't just for me to broadcast. It wasn't just for me to get information out to hundreds of teachers. It was also for them to one-on-one reach back, which isn't something that we're very good at when we try to do things like email or a discussion post in an LMS. So that's a lesson that I've taken away from this. You need a way to not only broadcast, but allow that one-to-one reach out afterwards too. This is just a pixelated Florida virtual page. It has a pagination that is uncommon to most kids. When we started calling this the textbook, that helped kids because they're like, oh, I'm just turning pages in a book. I'm not going to turn the page in Canvas. This is also where, oh, sorry, it looks like my sharing might have gone away.
Sorry. I still see your screen. We're good.
Awesome. Well, there it is.
Yeah.
This is also where we ran into that problem of documents, PDFs that were there. While a teacher didn't have to use the PDF, he or she could and might want to, and if you're trying to do a asynchronous submission, you need to. This is where Zoom and Kami came in, and we found that we did not have a document strategy that was strong with all parents, students, teachers when we started. So that's another lesson that we really learned here. And while that Canvas course was something that was continuous, every day in pre-planning a new module dropped. And so right here, these are the resources we used. A readiness survey, knowing that people were not just virtual. And then we borrowed heavily from Fry, Fisher, Hattie's distance learning playbook. There were pacing examples, of course. This was helpful to teachers. Anytime you make your own content, you must also make pacing, was another lesson that we learned as well. And we brought in some of our experts so that you could hear from someone on this platform with this content who's done this with Hall County students before. We provided checklists for teachers on timely things like grading. How's your communication? What does your module look like? And we talked about the LMS features and benefits and the content features and benefits.
Yeah, and I'll wrap it up with this. I know I think we're pretty close on time, but running short. So I just wanted to kind of wrap it up with really, I think we're in a spot that a lot of, I guess everybody's looking at is what's next. Even though we're just now getting ready to begin second semester, we're starting to think about, okay, what does the future look like with this? What's going to be the demand? We don't really know yet, obviously. So I wanted to just got a few bullet points. I'll go through this really quickly, but this is a little bit like I guess a flow chart of what what we're going to have to be thinking about over the next several weeks and months. One thing we do feel confident is that there will be an expectation in our district for some type of continuation of virtual learning. We don't know what that looks like. We don't know if that's K-12, 6-12. We just don't know yet. Another thing we don't know, and I don't think any of us know at this point, is will virtual continue to be an option because of safety concerns, or will it transition to an option because of a truly an instructional delivery preference? So once we have that determined, then we'll start our process. One thing we'll be talking about is, what does that format look like as a district? Do we leave it as a school-based process supported by the district, or does this become more of a a virtual academy type offering? We'll be talking about our catalogs. Are we going to offer basically everything for the most part as we do now, or will we limit that to a catalog of choices? We'll drill down to criteria and expectations as far as student participation, things like that, and then certainly that will then drive into personnel, and our goal, no matter what this is, we would love to have is teachers to be as much as possible involved in just one delivery model. So I think in some way, shape, or form, probably everybody in the state's going to be trying to work through these questions, but these are our next steps. So thank you for the time. Again, as I said earlier, we've learned from everyone, and hopefully this added some value, but we'll be glad to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Well, thank you back, Eddie and Penny. These were really bold moves. I'm super proud of you. I think your work is extraordinary, and your response was immediate to all the change. I think you've identified exactly what's next. And so I'm excited to hear more from you. Again, thank you, Eddie and Penny.
Hi, I'm Tice Miller, founder and CEO of Mobilemind. Mobilemind is the modern professional learning hub that's designed to enable every single teacher to effectively integrate technology like Google into their instruction. In 2015, I started this company to solve the biggest challenge stemming from mobile and cloud technologies hitting the classroom, and that's the lack of adoption by teachers. The traditional means of professional development were falling short in the face of the complexity and the pace of change of all this new tech, and PD suddenly required a new approach. So we partnered with Google. We spent 3 years doing research and development on how to best address this new and growing issue. Today, Mobilemind solves the biggest failure points that prevent teachers from the effective use of G Suite tools, which can negatively affect student outcomes. And some of these include lack of teacher buy-in, no personalization, no time for PD, and now more than ever, the need for accessibility to PD anytime, anywhere. So most districts have accepted that the majority of their teachers weren't completely leveraging their instructional tech tools. And the current pandemic has further exposed this reality. And the new normal means we must ensure all teachers are comfortable with using technology, whether they're in class or remote. Before I show you a short video, let me say this. Mobilemind's not like anything that you've seen before. This is not traditional online learning that teachers don't enjoy. We have taken methodologies such as SAMR and activity-based learning with personalized feedback and infused them into the most innovative cloud-based learning solution. So please contact us for a live demonstration of Mobilemind and learn how we're impacting schools and districts all over the country. Thanks so much and take care.
Google's G Suite and Chromebook one-to-one programs are revolutionizing education like never before. But despite many benefits for teachers, schools, and students, most schools are falling short of their implementation initiatives due to a lack of effective professional development. But how do you effectively cater to teachers with different technological skill levels, learning styles, and schedules? Designed specifically for Google use in K-12, Mobilemind solves these challenges by developing the modern professional learning hub for schools that is personalized, practical, and incredibly convenient for educators. Unlike traditional professional development, Mobilemind is cloud-based, so teachers are able to learn at their own pace whenever they have time in their schedule right from our Chrome extension. And since content is broken down into micro-courses with practical applications, progress can be made minutes at a time instead of committing to hours per session. Mobilemind is tailored for individual users, accounting for skill level and previous knowledge to challenge each educator appropriately. Learners demonstrate competency by completing performance-based Google challenges and receive ongoing individualized feedback from Mobilemind's team of certified educators. Finally, Mobilemind's data and reporting allows teachers to view their individual progress while providing schools and district leaders with the key metrics they need to evaluate the impact of virtual professional development throughout their district. Mobilemind's combination of cloud-based learning and tailored microcourses results in an average increase of 362% in the use of Google in educators' day-to-day teaching. Visit us at mobilemind.io and request a consultation and demonstration of our innovative professional learning solution.